Holla at your boy.
Holler at your boy.
New shit. Do remember.
Holler at your boy.
Going back a few weeks on this one.
Go way, way back.
This life ain't for everyone.
Hi guys, it's Badger here, getting all up in your grill. This isn't a review, and it's not a let's play. Instead I've opted for a barely coherent stream of consciousness which won't actually answer any questions, but it might leave you with a warm, creamy sense of satisfaction if you are jacking it while you're watching, which I'm okay with.
Touch me as a kid.
So, Rust is another survival type doodad of the kind which seems to have fallen out of whatever crevice DayZ was blocking up in the world before DayZ. You play a weird clone man who looks identical to all of the other weird clone men on an island with nothing but an expansive set of skills for crafting and survival. You're like the Liam Neeson of the crafting survival horror genre, if Liam Neeson was cloned endlessly because all avatars are identical. The premise of survival is pretty simple. You start with a rock, you hit a tree, the tree spits wood at you, you use this wood to make a fire, you use the fire to survive the night. As you progress you get more complex materials which enable you to build an assortment of continually more advanced technology while dodging local hazards, other players, zombies obviously, and fucking bears. You'll spend your first night, if you make it through the first day, huddling around your fire trying to keep warm. Helpfully you spawn with no clothes, which is exactly the kind of hurdle you don't need when you're trying to fight off aggressive wildlife and the living dead. There's actually a console command to turn off the pixelated effect which has been put into the game to save your weird clone man's modesty, so you can enjoy the true feeling of freedom as you teabag players, animals and zombies. There's a helpful UI element which will tell you how your Liam Neeson clone is feeling. Cold, hungry, poisoned. Sorry guys, can't let come out, I'm feeling poisoned today. Same goes for injured. This would normally be from falling off something high and accurately simulates the healing process when breaking a limb. Wander about slowly for a bit and then get better. This info will help you through your first night as you try to keep your calorie counter up high enough as it burns down ever quicker. When your calorie reach 0, it's game over. Your calories count down faster when you're cold or when you're harvesting things. So far the devs hadn't thought to include the Miley Cyrus purge button for when you're helping your clone lose those few extra pounds. It's worth mentioning when you start out you will die. A lot. You might get shot, you might get stabbed, crushed, you might fall from a great height or get mauled by a bear. Dying means losing all of your shit and going back to hit tree with rock. When you dance with the Reaper, which you inevitably will, the game gives you a helpful "you are dead" screen, which is exactly the kind of quality observation I need when I've just been gunned down by a group of adolescents with assault rifles. Out in the world you harvest everything with good old left mouse button, or LMB to the cool kids. Having tools of different quality changes the rate you pick things up, but the exercise is basically the same, and on a personal note, the feeling of pulping defenceless fauna with a rock is more satisfying than the relatively clean death of being pickaxed to the face. Which brings me on nicely to Survival 101, bludgeoning a pig to death with a stone. Before you ask, you cannot make sweet posthumous love to its warm innards, although being stuck on an island with nothing but identical clone men, the appeal is understandable, so I'm judging you slightly less than I would have had I discovered you doing the deed on your own time. Slightly. Once you've killed Piggy and staved off the bestial desire that flames inside, if you continue to beat him with the rock, he'll drop assorted goodies, much like real life. Once the bludgeoning's complete, everyone's covered in blood and shame, and you've got a pocket full of meat that you can stick on the fire where it'll gradually cook. At the moment, only chicken breast is in the game, so beating all animals results in chicken coming out. This might be a comment on everything tasting like chicken when you're starving on an island full of Liam Neeson clones locked in an eternal war of kill or be killed, where the chicken represents chicken and the Liam Neeson clones represent Liam Neeson. Or they might be adding different meats later in the dev cycle, I don't know. So, once you've left-clicked enough rocks and trees, and assuming some prepubescent teen with an itchy trigger finger hasn't murdered you for a piece of chicken breast and a bloodied rock, you'll be in a good shape to start your first building project. Stick down a foundation, some walls, doorway, ceiling, and you can have your own filthy hovel where you can cower in a pool of feces and urine while you wait for the sun to rise. Once you've completed your first masterpiece, you can begin to work on the game's tech tree. Harvest some more, refine it in a furnace, take the gooey metal scraps from that, hammer them into metal sheets and use the metal sheets to build yourself a fucking assault rifle, because science is why. Anyway, like many games of this ilk, things go much better when you get someone else to do the hard work of left-clicking on rocks and shit, so I hired a company that will enslave Chinese children to carry out menial in-game tasks to harvest materials and build me a bitching fort. Unfortunately the result is less a castle than a seething pile of shit, so I'll be emailing tonight to request that each child involved loses a hand as punishment. It's worth mentioning that Rust is still in alpha, which will hopefully do away with some of the shonky animations. Also note the cloth headgear here, which should be marked as file Michael Bay thinks Islam and sealed in concrete. I'm hoping there's going to be a bit more variance in armours and the ability to recolour eventually, as currently in a pitched gunfight all you can do is try not to shoot your own people in the sea of identical clone men. Which segues me on nicely to the primary danger of the map, other players. There are some PvE only servers, but as you can outrun bears and the zombies are about as responsive as staff at the Premier Inn, there's nothing that should give you any issue, so you shouldn't play on these unless you like the idea of endlessly harvesting raw materials with no goal in mind, in which case you might as well actually do this as your job rather than in a video game. As other players are in fact other people, they'll approach the problem of building in a post-apocalyptic island world in different ways. Some players aim to build their stuff out of the way in order to safeguard it from others, but some just like to build shit up and then shoot anyone that comes near. Some players band together for safety, security and liberty, other players like myself just stumble around blindly until an errant round or a severe mauling ends it all again. Of the players that band together, some create shared spaces with strangers that eventually become community villages. These can go well, but there is almost inevitably a rogue criminal element who will ask to come in under good pretences and then rob, rape and murder by night. It's just another lesson in not trusting people off the internet. By all means create a village with friends you know, but allowing strangers into your bosom is like inviting Ian Watkins into your house and letting him change your baby.
You can't say that.
What do you mean I can't say that? Ian H. Watkins from Steps is childless. I read his Wikipedia. You might not know how to change a baby without getting all pooey and then having shit leak out the sides. Jeez. General day-to-day PvP activity is covered by players raiding each other. This involves going solo or in groups to try and gain entry to other people's houses or forts to steal all of their shiny loot. Some doors require knocking down with a pick, others require an ample dose of C4, and some fucking idiots leave their doors open for people to just walk in and take what they want. And others take advantage of the greed of raiders to set traps. Aw man, will you guys at least please not rape my corpse?
I can't promise that's not going to happen.
Rust has a day and night cycle, which does bring a kind of natural order to each server. Because it's so dark at night, everybody tends to seek shelter and hunker down, which has a calming effect on the server while everybody gets a chance to take stock of how much wildlife they've killed with a stone today. It also gives a chance to sit around the fire and sing raucous campfire songs if that's your thing. We sit in silence because that's just how we roll. There's also an opportunity to craft and do other than those downtime things which you don't get during the day while shooting other people in the face. Around the island there are a variety of rad zones, which sounds like a cool teen hangout spot if we were still in the 90s and I was allowed within a nautical mile of teenagers. Navy Corps, go figure. While in the rad zones there's an irritating Geiger counter style noise because despite being dumped on this post-apocalyptic island without any trousers, you've still managed to keep hold of a working radioactive particle detector. Red zones spawn various kinds of useful loot, but they are populated by zombies to guard the spoils of the past. Luckily the AI isn't much smarter than your average X Factor contestant, so most of the time they just stare vacantly into the distance as you wander past with your dick swinging in the radioactive wind to claim what's left of their shattered past, and probably a life-ending dose of cock cancer. The servers themselves are occasionally subject to pretty hefty lag, demonstrated here as I stumble blindly around a local rad zone. Some unfortunate soul is suffering the same as me, and in a slight panic I shot him in the back as he stood there defenselessly. This is great for me as I'm shit at FPS, and having someone just stand there and soak it up is brilliant. When you die there's a message telling you who killed you, but unfortunately at the moment it is buggy as all hell, which is why he's blaming some innocent party in chat. So that's Rust, an evolving sandbox where you get to hit things with other things and die in creative ways. Development's ongoing, so there's features being added continually. Possibly in the end we won't all end up looking like the creepy clone army, but then again maybe we will. Who knows? Do we care? Probably not. I've been Badger, you've been mildly disgusted, and before you ask, I don't know why it's called Rust.